Good morning, everyone. Welcome to DevPulseCon 2020, our first virtual conference. We are honored to host attendees from around the world this year. So I would like to personally welcome those of you who do not speak English as your primary language. So here goes. Please forgive me if I mispronounce things. Namaste, India. Assalamu alaikum to the Middle East, India, Singapore, and Malaysia. Welkom, Netherlands. Shalom, Israel. Hallo na karibu, Africa. Herzlich willkommen, Germany. Ni hao, China. Hola y buenos dias, Mexico. And welcome to the United Kingdom, Australia, and New Zealand. And last but not the least, to my fellow North Americans from the USA and Canada, a very hearty and warm welcome. This is a very strange year, as you all know. We had to postpone our conference from the usual April timeline to October due to COVID. It has given us the time and the resources to bring together a fantastic lineup of keynote speakers, workshops on technical and product management topics, as well as panels on being the sole income earner and finding a path from engineering to product management. And to keep everyone from burning out from all the Zoom sessions and online meetings, we have streamlined 2-hour morning and afternoon sessions. All timings for our sessions for DevPulseCon are Pacific time. I wanted to take this opportunity to mention ThriveWise programs we provide to companies as separate standalone programs. We have our innovative Ally training for engineers and PMs, as well as our groundbreaking Safe Space program, which we are currently piloting at a prestigious Silicon Valley tech company in 2020 and 2021. Both of these new programs are in line with our mission to help improve workplace environments so that technical women can thrive in the workplace. So please do take a look at our programs on our website, thrive-wise.org. That is thrive-wise.org. And once again, welcome to DevPulseCon. So great. Thank you everyone for joining. This is the product management panel at DevPulseCon. And we are here with some awesome panelists that we've already shared info on where they're from, and they will be doing an introduction of themselves shortly so you can hear more. This panel is about the topic, what role does a technical product manager play in R&D? This is a topic that a lot of especially engineers and technical women want to know in order to understand what product management really means and how they can transition into a role that's a role of a TPM. And so I thought this would be a good topic to talk about, and we got some awesome panelists today, so we can discuss the different aspects to TPM and PM in general that people might want to keep in mind if they are looking into moving from the pure technical ladder into a product ladder at their company or at some other company. So with that, I'd like to get started, and let me just go over the sequence. I will ask, probably start with Alpana, Danika, Pooja, and then Vidya in that sequence. If you could do a very short intro with a little bit of your background, and how many years you've been a technical product manager. So that would be awesome. Alpana, please start.
Sure. Thank you, Rupa. So I'm at Walmart right now. I've been here for 5 years. I started my product journey about 18 plus years ago. Have started it with being a business analyst after my MBA and went to eBay and PayPal for almost a decade, where I worked on different applications, starting from identity linking between platforms to checkout and then selling services. And then here at Walmart, I lead the product team for item catalog and inventory management. Thank you.
Danika?
Hi, everyone. I'm Danika Loadhold, and I am currently the Director of Product Management at NetApp. I actually started my career in product management about 10 years ago, but I've been in technology about 15 years. I would definitely want to share, I think, the pivotal moment in my career in understanding that I wanted to move from a solely technical track to a more product management focused track was when I'm sitting in the lab and I'm working on a schematic, I'm soldering a board, and I remember saying, who made this decision? And my manager at the time told me, oh, the product team owns that. It's a product manager that owns that. I went back to school, got my MBA, had a lot of mentors within the product management field, and it has been move it ever since. Definitely, something that I can understand wanting to make that transition. And that's why I'm excited to be here and talk with you guys today.
That's awesome. Thank you. Pooja.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm Pooja. Currently, I'm at VMware. I lead the technical marketing and the product management teams for the networking and security products there. Been at VMware for 7 years. My career is around 15 years long in technology. I've done a variety of roles. I've done dev, I've done system test, technical sales, technical marketing, and product. And it has been a lot of fun. I'm one of the very few people on this panel who probably does not have an MBA. So even without an MBA, you can transition to a product role, is my message.
All right, Vidya.
Hey, thank you for having me, Rupa. I started my career as an engineer and have spent over 15 years in the tech industry, over 8 of them being in product. And I've been in product within multiple business verticals like hospitality and payments, e-commerce, and government and regulatory compliance. My last stint was at this multi-billion-dollar company, Infor, wherein I was leading the technical product management team and driving initiatives from concept to launch for hospitality software. My product philosophy is this lovely quote by Jeff Bezos, to be stubborn on vision, but flexible on details. It's a pleasure to be here today, and I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. Thank you, everybody. I do want to mention to the attendees that you can ask questions through the Zoom webinar Q&A feature. You can also ask questions through Slido. Slido has a great integration with Zoom, so we will be able to see your questions and ask the panelists in the Q&A time. So I just wanted to let all the attendees know that you have 2 ways to ask your questions. All right, and with that, I want to start off with the first question that I get asked a fair bit is, as a technical PM, do you feel like you need to fight to stay in the technical zone and are being pushed to constantly do marketing, sales, strategy, metrics? And how do you feel about this? And how do you stay technical in your role as the technical PM? So if we can start out and go in the sequence of Alpana, Danika, Pooja, and Vidya, that would be awesome. All right, Alpana.
Yeah, thanks for asking this question. So I am in a pretty technical product role at Walmart, working on catalog and inventory management from a platform standpoint, and we're building global products. One thing I did early in my career when I was leading the checkout product team at a different company was that everybody around me was either an architect or an engineer, and I'm a non-engineer. So I had this desire to know every technicality and everything at the deepest level. What happened was I lost sight of what I was supposed to bring to the table as a product manager, which is really a broad view of the customer journey, the customer problems you were trying to solve, and the functional requirements I had. So that was a lesson learned early in my career, that my role was not to be as good as the next engineer or as good as the next architect, but really be the GM of my product and represent the customer in the journey. So I think that was a life lesson learned. And the way I try to strike a balance is to make sure that I have a functional perspective of what we are trying to do, back it up with data and the metrics that we want to solve for, and having a strong customer voice in it. And believe me, your technical counterparts, your engineers and your architects will appreciate the perspective that you bring to the table by making sure that you've done your homework and you really understand the problem that you're trying to solve for.
I should unmute myself. Awesome. Thank you. Danika, what do
And
you
I agree. I totally agree with that response. At NetApp, where we bring enterprise storage to market, we're actually set up where there's an inbound product management team and an outbound product management team. And I actually own outbound. So, and my team is not only responsible for launching the product and questions that come up after the product has already been launched, we're also responsible for feeding those requirements back into the process. So we do a lot of work and understanding of the actual market, understanding the strategy, helping to build the strategy, but we also need to be able to translate that back into, well, how does this impact the product and what is it we need to do? And is there something that we need to work back with engineering to make sure it becomes a part of the product? So it may not be something technical in our mind, even having a technical background, it's like, we let everybody play their role, but it may be something that turns into a different piece of technology or a different way to use the technology that eventually allows itself to be a part of this technical product manager role, where we do understand the market, we do understand the customer, we are getting those requirements in, but we are feeding into what that next product looks like, how it performs, how it manages huge corporations. So it is very key for me as outbound product management to make sure that we are, straddling the fence with the technology and also with the market, and being able to blend the two and do what's right for a customer.
Awesome. Thank you. Pooja.
So I completely agree with Alpana and Danika. The fundamental job of a product manager is to be the customer's voice, the voice of the user journey. From the minute the customer evaluates the product to the customer installing the product, using the product, opening the bugs, escalations, the whole life cycle. So we don't need to be an architect for the product, but we need to understand the product and the customer's need in a very intrinsic way. I mean, we can be technical. We should play with the product all the time, but we shouldn't impose on the architects. We should let them do their jobs, and we should take care of influencing the UX, the usability, performance, scale, compatibility. Look at it at a whole package, while the architect is only looking at it from their submodule perspective.
Awesome. Thank you. Vidya.
Sure. Yeah, I completely agree with everybody's thoughts here. A product manager should wear different hats based on the stage or, the product is in. And I actually do not mind, moving between technical to, say, marketing, sales strategy, because I think it gives one a holistic view needs and better understand the business objectives. And at the end of the day, as it's been said earlier, product manager is the strongest customer voice, right from sprint room to boardroom to the customer's meeting room. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. So I had a question from one of the audience members is, in your journey as a PM, what have you seen in terms of the different ways in different companies, how they interpret this product manager role? Because it can it can be very different depending on which company you're working at, how they view a product manager, not just as a customer representative, but you know, are you doing a lot of project management as part of this? Are you doing a lot of program management as part of this? So I wanted to ask, what are your thoughts on what you've seen, either personally or in the field, regarding the different shifting roles and responsibilities for the you know, the product manager role in different companies? So if we can start with Alpana, that would be awesome.
Sure. So yeah, so typically, I believe that a product manager is the CEO or the general manager of their product. So even though, like in different companies, there may be different flavors, slightly different flavors of product management, ultimately the success of the product is something that a product manager along with their team owns. So some differences I see, like in a smaller company or a startup, you may have a product manager that wears all kinds of hats, where you're writing requirements, you may be running projects, you may also be architecting this, and working closely with your engineers, right? So there is a broad spectrum of things a product manager can do. In larger companies, typically it's a pretty structured role in terms of what a product manager does or does not do. So I've been in situations where there's a clear line of demarcation between an architect and a product manager, right? And I come from old school where we used to write PRDs, and then the architect would write their own like requirements, design documents, etc. So there would be these demarcations. However, I think flexibility is important, and knowing where you can step in and help is important, right? And I see the more successful product managers can step in and help the team where they need help. And it can be anything from project management to communicating with stakeholders, to pulling data, to all kinds of activities. So that's really kind of my point of view in terms of what a successful product manager does.
Awesome. Danika?
I totally agree with the statement about you're the CEO. I tell all of my teams, no matter where I'm working, no matter what the product is, you're the general manager of this product. If you want to change your LinkedIn profile to general manager of blank, 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 go ahead and do that, because we own it from concept to end of life. We own the business objectives. We own the KPIs. We own every single piece of the failure and success of these programs. So we're literally the center of what engineering is doing against our requirements, what our sales teams are doing as far as programs to market or to sell a specific feature. Like, it's just so much that goes into the role, but understanding the product, understanding the market, and understanding what the overall goal and mission is really definitely the core of any product manager role, no matter what the company. I've got friends who market food, like potato chips, and I do enterprise storage, but we all think the same in terms of how do we make sure we're getting the right product together? How are we making sure that we're the owner and own every piece of the success, and be able to turn some of our failures into, a next generation that becomes a success? So there's definitely a lot of different ways to look at it, but I think at the core, it's all the same.
I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm going to switch to a different question for Pooja and Vidya. One of the things is, how do you ensure that, in your TPM role, that in your interactions with the technical ladder, the engineering team, engineering leadership, that they have the requisite respect for you, to listen to you, and to consider your viewpoints, instead of just blowing you off as not being technical enough to know anything or do anything, and they're the boss. This happens a lot. What have you faced a situation like that, and what did you do when you faced a situation like that? And so just wanted to throw that out there and ask Pooja and Vidya, can you talk about this aspect, if you run into this, and what you did? What worked, what didn't work?
So at the end of the day, engineers own developing the product, and product managers are the customer's voice. So we understand customers' need more than anyone who wants to build a fancy feature. So yes, engineering sometimes does want to build esoteric features, which are cool, which have resume value, but which don't meet the objectives, the business objectives of the company. So you have to negotiate with them a little bit. You have to tell them, hey, this what you're talking about is really cool, but we need to focus on delivering this feature, and then give them, you don't blow them off, but you give them an idea to do something else. And it's a negotiation. You have to let them win, and you have to win for your customers as well. The other good thing is whenever there's a customer success, or I like to bring customers to my engineering teams to present. Like every 3 months, we do like an event where our big customers, they come and talk to our engineers directly, so they also get information firsthand on what we are talking about. And support people come in and talk to the engineers as well, so they know when we ask for the usability feature or for logging or for more metrics on the CLI, it's not cool, but it is something which is required in the product. So that's how you slowly build respect.
Awesome. Vidya, do you have any?
Yeah, I agree with Pooja. Respect comes from open communication and positive recognition of the development team's abilities and achievements. I think it also comes from a place of empathy towards their work. For example, not setting deadlines with customers without the engineer's approval, right? So in terms of handling scenarios with the engineering team, I've learned that the best way is to show humility and understand that developers typically know a lot more about technicalities than a product person, even though a product person may have an engineering background. So I often ask probing or open-ended questions to better understand their point of view, as well as try to give them detailed context of the why and what, so they can better solve the how. I love Pooja's idea of getting the customer in the room with the engineers, and you can bring in customer quotes as well, so they understand the perspective. I also find regular feedback from the dev team helps a PM better understand the expectations, and determine where to draw the line technically.
Yeah, these are excellent points. One of the things, since you mentioned deadlines, and everybody's like, under the gun all the time with some deadline hanging over their head, right? so, so it often falls on the PM to prioritize things. So I wanted to talk about prioritization, and I wanted to start off with Alpana. Uh, if you're given, when you're in the situation where you have to prioritize, given, the deadlines that are coming up, and you have, maybe 2 or 3 features that have exact same need from different customers, all of them want it tomorrow or today or yesterday. Most of the time it's yesterday they wanted it, right? And your senior leadership is going, we have to have all of these in the next release. I don't care how you do it, just do it. If you have to kill the engineering team, but get it done, right? So in that situation, like, how do you go about prioritizing in a tough situation when you are being told by every single channel that's open to you that all of them have to be done, all of them have to be done by this, the next release being the deadline, and you are the point person to coordinate between engineering, between sales and marketing, senior leadership across the board, to set expectations and to prioritize. So my basic question is, how do you go about doing that?
Yeah, I feel like that is one of the core pillars or skill sets a product manager needs, right? And the way I do this in my teams is to make sure that we not only have like sprint-wise prioritization, but we start a quarter with a prioritized list of requirements, right? And these are like broad features or requirements across the board in my organization. And then we force rank everything, right? So that's a clean way of doing this. Now, as the quarter progresses, we get into creative prioritization. So that is the fun part where, as you know, like Walmart, like any other retailer, we are in the middle of preparing for the holidays. In fact, lots of things going on. So this is the time when everybody comes to us with a long list of requirements. Everything is needed, like as of midnight tonight or whatever it is. So at that point, like, we start evaluating what are the must-haves in terms of, whatever is the biggest thing at hand. For us right now, it's the holidays, right? So then you apply that lens, you rejigger. So there's a lot of like reprioritization, renegotiation. Part of the renegotiation is sometimes bringing different stakeholders into the room and saying, okay, like we need to discuss these things. Here is the data. Here is the ROI. So a product manager's role is to really bring all of the data and whether it's ROI, whether it's metrics, customer data points, all of that, and then also enter the room with a strong recommendation. So I wouldn't say a decision, but a recommendation, because you are typically one of the people who's closest to this, right? So I look to my product managers to come to the table with a strong recommendation, pros and cons, and really kind of help that executive team come to a conclusion as well. So yeah, I think like it's not one thing, it's multiple things, and it's part of the juggling that all of us do as product managers.
Awesome. Fantastic. Fantastic thoughts on that. Danika?
So one thing I will say, and this is day to day for me, is I usually have a deadline for a deadline for a deadline. And that's because everything can't be a priority at one time. And that's not just for the product. It's about, we can't launch 10 things in one day. We can't, talk to 10 customers about the same thing at the same time. So being able to prioritize is all about the product, but it's about everything else that goes around it that product managers are responsible for as well. So one of the things that I definitely like to do along with the normal process of creating a product is definitely following with the marketing requirements documents. We've already prioritized them. We've done this is priority 1, this is 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, all the way down to however many different priorities and requirements have come in either from predecessor products or from the market itself, and being able to put a stake in the ground early in the concept process and understanding, well, what do we want this product, where do we want it to sit in the market, what are the goals, the business objectives, and really being able to stick to that, but also knowing that there are going to be interrupts. There are going to be things that your competitor is going to announce at the same time as something that you are going to announce something completely different, and being able to weigh not necessarily just the pros and cons, but the business impact. We usually already have customers lined up for something. So if you delay a specific feature, what does that mean down the line? Or if you bring in a specific feature, is it worth it to delay that one feature for that customer? Can you make those trade-offs? We actually had to talk to customers about, if we do this a month late, we'll be able to give you this other feature and really be able to, dial up some momentum for, this new feature, and making sure that we not only can fit the requirements of that customer, but maybe part of an industry that we hadn't been thinking about and that customer may not have been thinking about as well. So it really is not only just the product, but it's everything that goes around it, and being able to, really draw that line in the sand or put that stake in the ground, whichever idiom you want to use. It is the product manager's job to be able to come to the table with it and say, hey, executive leadership team, this is our recommendation, but in the end, you guys own the business objectives. You own, what we tell our stock, our board of directors, it's going to impact how our stock price moves. So being able to, just come with all the details, all the analysis, and really be able to say, well, this is what we think is the right thing to do. Get everybody to shake their head or nod their head and be able to move forward quickly.
Awesome. Thank you for those perspectives. Pooja, do you have anything to add to that?
Sure. The key is planning. So right now we are planning for August 2021. And we are a B2B product. We make enterprise networking and security. So our customers also plan. So we have a good view of what they want to do. So same rules as the others talked about. We stack rank everything. We agree at high level priorities which we want to do, and we take those buckets, and in those buckets we stack rank everything else. We decide to drop or defer unless we get some more engineers to work on it from somewhere magically. So that's how the normal cycle works. But then sometimes what happens is there is a customer emergency, or COVID happened. So when COVID happened, suddenly our VDI products, our virtual desktop products, our SD-WAN products, the branch products started doing extremely well. And there was huge demand to deploy them very quickly. So we had to reprioritize and accelerate those so our customers could deploy. The other example we had was a disaster recovery product. There were fires very close to our customers, a mile from the data centers. So they were like, hey, we were fine. And we were ready to wait for a year before, but we have to initiate DR right now in the next day or so. So we had to put like professional services, put engineers, do some product smith, smoothing around it, and get them deployed. So yes, when things like this happen, you do have to change priorities, but otherwise things go on plan, and you should stick to the plan.
That is such a relevant aspect to this that a lot of people forget is, especially if you're on the infrastructure side of things, the fires and how it affected everything, because California is like pretty much burning.
Right. Every customer of ours suddenly wanted to replicate to a DR site overnight. So
I bet. Awesome. Thank you. Vidya, do you have anything to add to this?
Sure. To add to that, I think, yeah, senior leaders, they usually come with good intent, right? They have the big picture, but seldom can keep up with all the tactical details. So, what helps in such situations is, of course, team opinions with data, because opinions are cheap. Constantly reiterate the roadmap focus. Someone earlier mentioned about themes for a particular quarter, right? And reiterating that really helps. And also openly communicating the prioritization stack, because if you need to pick up something, it means something needs to be dropped off, right? And at the end of the day, as product managers, our role is to, pardon my French, get shit done. So if it means, you have to deprioritize certain things or reduce the scope on stuff to get multiple things done, so be it. At the end of the day, we need to serve the needs of the customer and the market and the business objectives.
And that kind of dovetails into my next question, which is back to what you mentioned, Vidya, about deprioritizing. And you have to go to senior leadership across the board in all the different verticals and say, you know what, we signed up to do this and we were on track and we're not going to make it. And this is not going to go out the way you thought. It's going to affect our stock price. It's going to not be good. Have you been in a situation of that sort? And what did you use? What techniques did you use to convey? I don't want to say bad, but not so good information to stakeholders. Senior leadership. You're going up to the CEO, or, C-level executive who's looking at you, going, "What?" This something that has a pretty negative impact on the business side of things. So I wanted to have some discussion on that to see what people have experienced, what have you used, how have you handled a situation like that, because that's something that most engineers almost never have to do, but as PMs, that is an expectation and that is a skill set that all PMs must have. And it is hard to learn and it is hard to do and it takes a lot of time and effort, but it is a critical skill. So can we start with you, Alpana?
Yeah, sure. I feel like how my week is going so far. So I think this is, and I agree with what you guys have been saying as well, Pooja, Vidya, Danika, that the product manager has this unique role of juggling everything and making sure the right priorities get addressed. There are situations in which we go back, whether it's our stakeholders or our extended teams or business partners or our leadership. And part of it is what one of my colleagues always reminds us, which is to under promise and over deliver. So this is expectation setting right from the beginning, knowing what your team is doing, knowing that you're not getting new resources, and having an idea of what it will take to deliver. That gives you an idea of how loaded already your plate is, and then setting the right expectation. Right, you may take something on as a stretch goal or just because it's important. And and a lot of planning needs to go into this, right? Because this is something that doesn't just impact you as an individual, but really has an impact on the team, what you deliver as a company, etc. So I think like once you have that, part of it is building credibility with your partners upfront, like even outside of the product, right? Like, are you as a product manager having a credibility that when you go to a business partner and say no, it cannot be done, that they have the right questions? Or have you trained them to go escalate to the next level and then you eventually do it, right? So those are the type of things you have to consider. The other one is, whenever you go in for a tough conversation like this, data is king. You need to bring the data. You need to bring your prioritized list to say, if somebody really wants to make a call to take a brick out to put a brick in, what does that look like? I don't like to do it, but I have to be prepared with it. The other thing which we don't talk a lot about is really socializing what you're going to do before even the meeting happens. So your engineering partner is on the same page. Some of your business partners are on the same page. The best meetings are when I go to an executive update, my engineering leader and my business leader are on the same page and are supporting me in that choice, right? So those are some of the tactics that we use as we kind of navigate all of this.
Great point. Danika, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, those are great tactics, and I feel like you know what I've been doing all day. One other thing that I really like to do is just get ahead of the problems. Like, very few things, I mean, COVID aside, just come at the product that you had no idea it was going to happen. Like, as a product manager, the idea is to understand what could happen. Like, we got to understand, well, if competitor A announces X, Y, and Z, and we know we're 3 months out, what does that mean? Like, we have to understand the market, understand the dynamics, understand the climate around us to be able to stay ahead of any potential issues or potential, win back scenarios that we end up losing or anything like that. And just really getting that understanding amongst your teams or amongst other product managers, so that if those things do happen, you at least have some type of plan, or at least some type of understanding of how to create the right plan, so that you can socialize it as early as possible as, hey, these are the risks of this product, of this time, and of this feature that we want to do, so that you can hopefully at least be some bit ahead of it, to the point where it's not just complete pandemonium when you do come in with bad news. Because one of the things that I tell my team is, and people that I mentor today about wanting to get into product management, I say, how much visibility do you want? Because this is, product management is all the visibility, all the way up to the CEO. Literally every CEO that I've ever had knew me in some type of way. And we're talking billion-dollar corporations. So being able to give good news, being able to give bad news, being able to prioritize, all of those go into a successful product and a successful product manager.
Awesome. Thank you. Pooja.
Yeah, completely agree with what you ladies said. You have to under promise and over deliver. You have to train your team that you're not Superman. You cannot make the deck or write the PRD in 2 days. Set realistic expectations. Know your engineers. They're like your children. Sorry for a bad analogy, but you know what their capabilities are. So balance it. Keep on asking them the question, are you sure you can do it by this date? And build some buffer in. Don't go crazy, but at every stage there has to be a buffer. So usually we tell the customer when it's going to be available. The account team will add some buffer as well in communicating to the customer. But sometimes, yes, we are unable to deliver at that time. I try to be extremely transparent to the customer. First, we get executive buy-in. We go and talk to the customer. Look, we don't think this is going to make it. We could make it, but this is extremely risky. So let's look at contingencies. And the customer usually wants to do the best thing for their infrastructure as well. It's going to run their business. So they're like, okay, let's not risk it. So 3-4 months before they're going into deployment, we go and tell them the truth, work with them, and find a way forward. So
Awesome. Thank you. Vidya, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, great points by everybody here. I think if one is doing their job right as a product manager, no news is extremely bad news because there is a build up, right, to that news. You're already continuously communicating about the risks and different issues one is encountering while going through that process. But definitely one thing I do like to reiterate and stay very focused on is when communicating bad news is what is the customer problem they're trying to solve for? Because if product is not being able to deliver it, there can be lots of creative ways to deliver the same thing, right? Or something similar to solve the needs. And those can be continuously explored and brought in as possible solutions to both the customer and as stakeholders or execs. And of course, open communication and transparency always helps. I think customers truly appreciate that. If they're honest with them about what's happening and what the true reasons for the delay, they appreciate and usually are very supportive.
Awesome. These are all excellent points. Thank you so much. I have a question from the audience. What is the difference in product management and technical product management? Any of you want to respond to this question?
I can take it.
Go ahead.
I'm actually leading a team where we have folks with a title of product manager, and we have title of a technical product manager. So it depends on the organization. In our organization, technical product managers are very similar to technical marketing engineers. So they help with the solution architectures, they help with high touch customers, they help with the collateral and write the entire reference design guides, etc. Because networking and security is extremely complicated and technical. And then we have a product manager who is technical as well, but more strategic in direction. So they focus on owning the roadmap, working daily with engineering, setting the priorities, doing some pricing and packaging as well. In other companies, you also have 3 roles. You have a technical marketing engineer, you have a product manager, and you have an outbound product manager like Danika mentioned. So it completely varies from organization to organization.
Excellent. That's pretty much been my experience as well. Anyone else want to add to that? We have a little time to do that, but otherwise I'll go to the next question. All right, I'll go to the next question. So somebody from the audience is asking how to handle a situation when the client is asking for something not possible or receive strong pushback from dependencies besides scheduling meetings. I hope that made sense. So anybody want to take a stab at that?
Yeah, I was going to ask, like, besides scheduling meetings is the part I didn't understand fully.
I didn't understand that either. But if you can answer, how do you handle a situation when the client is?
Yeah, I think like as much as we try to rationalize and make everything kind of clean and presentable, there are times when you're not going to be able to implement something, right? And sometimes there can be conflicting requirements from customers, right? Like there is a certain, I can give you an example that, we reserve inventory at the time a customer is actually checking out on our website, right? There was a counterpoint to say, hey, like, why don't you reserve it when a customer puts it in their cart? Because they're expecting to be able to take that, right? To be able to buy that. And if you sell out before they check out, that's gone, right? So that's an example of different kind of opinions or customer expectations. So at that point, you really have to, I mean, in this case, we have opinions because we've been doing this for a long time. But beyond that, you can run A/B tests. You can actually look at the site metrics in terms of what are greater chances of conversion and sales, and really bring that back to the deciding community. I don't think like that is a one person's opinion that should matter, but really it needs to be, even if it's a customer, it needs to be contrasted with like a broader customer voice, and then with data to say, hey, like agree to disagree, but this is what we want to move forward with. And as a product manager, sometimes you are the person who brings the bad news and says, you know what, not going to do it, and here are the reasons why. And there's different ways to manage that once you communicate that message. So hope that helps.
Thank you. Anyone else? Danika?
So I would like to add, well, first I need to go to my Walmart cart and check out. I did not know that. But one of the things definitely when being asked for something that's not possible, you really have to go back to what is the problem that we're trying to solve. I've been in customer meetings where I'm just clear that they don't really understand their problem. So we need to, have a meeting with a broader audience and understand, well, what is the true problem so that we can create or position the right solution. And it's okay for, those conversations to happen, but sometimes it is a bit of a give and take to even get the customer to understand, hey, we may be able to help you understand your business a little bit better if we understand what your objectives are and what problem you want to look to us to resolve. So I think that's really important when a customer is asking for something that is just completely not possible. You may need to look back at the requirements and what we're trying to solve for.
Excellent points. Either Pooja or Vidya, you want to add to that?
Sure. I also, to add on to all these excellent points, another approach is to be empathetic, right? To understand where they're coming from and what kind of data points that they are using at their end, to come up with this idea or a possible solution. And also when one is saying no, right, it's also useful to explain to them that saying no to this request means you're saying yes to another request, which could possibly help them in a much better way, right? So being very open about that larger picture also definitely helps and adds a lot of authenticity to the conversation.
Excellent point. Pooja, you have anything to add?
Right. Yeah. It's okay to say no sometimes. Look, hear the request. If the request is completely out in the wild and it does not meet your business objectives, you can be very transparent about it that, hey, we understand it completely. We don't have too many people asking for it right now. We'll keep it in our backlog, but this is not something we'll do right now. And sometimes it's okay to bring in a partner product to work with your product. If you don't have any plans of doing that, they'll really appreciate it instead of taking them round and round that we'll do it and then never doing it.
Excellent points. Thank you everybody for your great answers to this question. And with that, I want to move to the next question that I was, when I transitioned from engineering to product, this was something that I personally felt I completely failed at initially, and it took a lot to get me into the groove, so to speak, on this particular aspect, and that is relationship building. This is something that I discovered that product managers are successful if they build the relationships with all the people that they need to work with, have influence over, because as a product person, you have no power, but you have to influence other people who have power. So I wanted to ask each of you to talk a little bit about your personal journey on building relationships. How do you go about building relationships and coming across people that, let's say you have a complete personality clash with, okay, that you just neither of you can stand each other, but you have to get this thing done, right? And you have to do it well, and you have to do it professionally, and how did you in your personal journey as a product manager build your relationships? What kind of tactics do you use? Do you take classes? Do you read books? What do you do? So I'd like to start off with Vidya this time. So Vidya, can you talk a little bit about your journey building relationships?
Sure. I mean, I've learned it on the go, through my job, because it's not taught at B school. It's not taught in school, right? Period. I've now come to realize that relationship building is key. Not just to product management, but it's a life skill, right? It's with your family, with friends, and at work as well. And it's key to being successful in your career. And yes, I've been in situations where I've not had great relationships, and I think it's important to recognize, acknowledge that first, right? And then start to build that, more importantly, from the other person's perspective, right? And typically I've seen when there's conflict of opinion or whatever, right? It's because people are coming from two different uh, spaces, or they have different data points, right, that they come from. So just talking about things that are coming in the way really helps. I've done like lunches and coffee sessions and one-on-ones as well as group sessions to overcome some of those barriers. Yeah, that's been my personal experience.
Awesome. Thank you. Let's go to Pooja.
So, great question. I used to be in sales in the past. So in sales, they used to actually teach this. It was an interesting class where, because you had to go and convince people to buy technology from you. So what we used to do is we had like 3 boxes we had to make for pretty much all the people. And one was like the opposer box, one was the neutral box, and one was a supporter box. So when we tried to win a deal in sales, we would try to neutralize the opposer a little bit, keep the supporter in our corner, and the neutral person would try to make them slightly positive. And that's how, and the influencers, the buying centers were also plotted, and that's how we closed the deal. Now, it doesn't completely map to product management, but you will have to basically get a lot of people to like you or respect you. It comes through coffee, it comes through your supporters supporting you, and basically your opposer won't argue too much if there are 3 other people supporting you. So that tactic has also worked. uh, have great relationship with sales and professional services. Sometimes if engineering says no, you make the salespeople directly send a note, escalate up the chain, and it comes down. So they'll do it. All those tactics you have to use.
Yeah, yeah. I call them backdoor. That's a backdoor tactic. Awesome. Danika.
So one of the main things that I believe in as far as building relationships is transparency. I try not to become a different person when I need something. I want to be who I am all the time. Understanding that, we all should have very similar objectives, and that's whatever the business goal is, whatever the customer journey is that we're trying to create, and just really staying focused on that. But, being myself is I'm a talker. I want to, talk about life before I get down to the technical details, or hey, before I hit you with a requirement that I need by the end of the week. But it is important for me, since that is a part of my personality, to build that type of relationship, to build that kind of cadence, so that no matter what your personality style is, it is built on respect, and me being who I'm going to be in every single meeting, not having a different personality for a different person based on how high they are up the chain, or how low they may be. I've been a junior product manager before and felt like I had the same voice as a senior product manager, because of the fact that you go in, you understand what the objectives are, you're transparent about your ask, who you are, and how you plan to get there, and things just usually seem to flow pretty well from there. I mean, that's just my own personal experience, and I really do hope that we're building the right relationships in the right way, versus just being someone that we're not, to try to build it turns into you'd have built a career that you don't love. And I love what I do, and I want to make sure that I'm who I am, regardless of the situation and the relationship that I'm trying to build.
Excellent. Thank you. Alpana.
Yeah, you guys were reminding me of different points in my career when even things have gone well, not gone well. Agree with all your points. I think one thing, Pooja, you reminded me of is I read a bunch of negotiation books and also went to a class to learn this. And as a product manager at that point, my manager said, hey, like, this is a key area. Why don't you go spend some time on that? And one of the things was how to create a leverage. And that's like one tactic that, if you keep in your like a back pocket thing, which is if you can help a fellow product manager, engineer, stakeholder, even
Exactly.
if it doesn't mean something right now for your team, like if you are able to help them, there is leverage there that you're able to use later when you need something from that team or that person. So that is something, like, it's not top of mind all the time. You just reminded me of that. That is something, as product managers, we are constantly negotiating. How do we make sure as we build these relationships, that we're able to actually help each other out, and there are times when I'm in a fix and I need the help, and the people who come forward are the people who I may have helped in the past, or I have a working relationship. So yeah, I mean, having coffees, having lunches, hopefully, at some point next year we're able to do all that. And then also, like, one of the things you guys touched upon, which is coming from a place of trust and respect, is important, right? Like,
Yeah.
um, and I have to remind myself that, I may know my area, but I don't know the other area. I have some assumptions. And then you have to go with an open mind to say, I'm going to learn something new. And I may be proven wrong, right? So being open to that also helps in really building relationships, rather than just saying, I have one agenda to push and I'll keep pushing that.
And these are great points. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your thoughts on this. I learned a lot from this too. We have one more question from the audience. I'm going to read it out. I have seen in my company that as a product manager, you have to do quite a bit of travel, especially if your engineering team is in a different location or time zone. Um, given given this, for I think the question is specifically for pre-COVID times when people could travel, is like, how did you achieve work-life balance with the travel schedule that PMs get hit with? So that's the question from the audience. I'm gonna ask who wants to take it first. Just let me know.
I can take that. So yeah, pre-COVID, right, work-life balance is a whole different story than the COVID work-life balance, right? So yeah, traveling is tricky, especially if it's a different time zone, because at the end of the day, I've seen from experience, one is working a lot more. You're handling the current time zone and the work time zone that you were at, right? And there's a lot more work involved, so it gets very exhausting. In terms of work-life balance, it's having the right people around you, your partner or family or whoever, right, to understand your work and the commitment that it needs, as well as acknowledging for your own self that you're not going to be able to juggle everything perfectly, right? And it's okay to have a little bit of imperfection in there. You can drop a few things that are probably low priority, or delegate more to your team and not feel guilty about it, right? So just having that right support system, both on the home front as well as the work front, truly helps.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Anyone
I
else?
can I can add from my travel experience. So, I travel quite often for work pre-COVID, and part of it is, just knowing what are your priorities work-wise as well as home life. There are certain things I don't do at home anymore. I've just like either delegated or it's not a priority for me. So, not trying to be perfect is important. And then since I travel, that's like days you take away from your family. So when I come back, I'll try to take a couple days when I'm just at home working from home. I make sure I travel around my kids' performances or things like that, so that I don't feel that I missed on something. And there have been times like I've gotten on a flight at like 4 a.m. in the morning so that I can be at an 11 a.m. performance here, and not miss that. So I think like there is definitely juggling involved. It's a matter of always deciding what is a priority, and if you know, if whether it's sometimes at work you're on for 12 hours, and there are times when you need to go be with your family for 2 days, and it's a matter of juggling, I think.
Awesome.
The other thing I would say is like not be a martyr. So I don't believe in burning out and becoming a martyr and telling everybody how long I worked and how hard I worked. It has to be something that works for me and my family.
So
I'm gonna switch to the opposite side. Is during COVID, how are you keeping balance? Because now nobody, like hopefully you're not traveling. What, but we're all hit with extra hours, and now we have all this other stuff to do at home because family is at home, kids are at home, schooling is at home, spouse is at home, everybody's at home. Okay, and it's like freaking everybody out. What are you doing during COVID to stay sane and just to balance everything you have to do? So I'm gonna go to Danika, then I'm gonna go to Pooja. So if you could share some.
Okay. So right now I am, a director of product management. I am a virtual kindergarten teacher. I am 3 meals a day for a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, which is probably the hardest job of them all. And one of the things that I have managed to do is take advantage of the different time zones of my team. Hey, I'll finish something during the Eastern time zone. You can finish or pick it up in Pacific, and then someone else can pick it up during Beijing time. Like just really, finding those out of box ways to, take advantage of the fact that, yes, we're all working different hours, we're working longer hours, we're working hours that we didn't expect to work within our own households, and just being transparent about it. Hey, I'm going to go dark from Zoom and all my meetings between 6:30 and 7:30 because I have dinner and get my kids ready for bed and we watch Pokemon for, another 30 minutes. Like just being really transparent about, hey, I'm going to be gone during these time frames, but hey, I might get back on at 8:30 my time when the kids are now asleep and when it's a little bit easier. There's no new emails coming in, so I can focus. And then, first thing in the morning, we're right back at it. But I've had an opportunity to do the things that are important to me, not only at home, but then to also keep on track to some of the goals and responsibilities that I know I have and that I know aren't going to let up now. And just really being able to, be make changes to collaborate with this new normal.
Yeah, I hear you. Pooja.
So I'm taking Zoom art classes with some of my friends. I bought a bike, so I go biking now. Those are the two things I added to the schedule. They've been helping out. But yeah, I agree with everyone. I think we are working way too much because nobody's traveling. So everybody accepts your meeting. And all the time zones are also at home. So the pace of work has increased. So I did squeeze in 2 vacations because I was completely going crazy. So I did go to a hotel in SoCal, stay there for a few days. I was like, it's fine if I get COVID, I'm done. So that helped out a lot. So that was amazing. But the other big part is being there for the team. I'm almost playing a therapist role for the team because the team is also going crazy. So we've been doing virtual Zoom. We've also done one physical coffee because for people who wanted to see others, and we were socially distant, but we still met. So we've started doing some things with the team.
Anything, Alpana, Vidya, do you want to add anything to this?
Yeah, I mean, just keeping sane and picking up hobbies, listening to the team, like you guys said. So yeah, all of the above.
Yeah, lots of Zen time for sure. You know, whatever Zen means to you.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, everybody. We are definitely over time at this point. Let me just quickly check. Uh, yeah, we are just over by a few minutes. But thank you so much for your thoughts and your answers. I want to take a quick moment to take a screenshot. So if you could please like look in your camera and smile. That way, actually, let me just make sure I can't take it. All right, 3, 2, 1. Done. Awesome. Thank you so much, and thank you so much to the attendees for the great questions. And I hope everybody learned a lot from this awesome panel. I will follow up with each of the panelists for future either workshops or talks or more panels from ThriveWise, because this is a topic that everybody always wants to know more about. And there's so much information that came through today. We want to reiterate it so people can remember different pieces of it over time. Thank you again. And our next session is anti-racism training. All the people that have signed up for it will you head to the Zoom room for that. And don't forget recruiting and networking, come to that.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.